So now we have 6 participants. The other participants, we just had a poll where we're all across the board on lean planning. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining our webinar on lean training, replacing your stickies with digital collaboration. My name is Kelsey Poinsett-Jones, and I am the head of growth at Kwant, an Internet of Construction firm focused on improving safety and productivity. My passion lies in improving health and safety in large industrial operations, for example, Exxon. We have a strong team of 10 engineers and business development personnel, along with our CEO, Niran Shretha, with 15 years in construction and data science, and Tib Aknes, our CTO, with 20 years in IoT. I have a 45-minute webinar today where I will be outlining the principles of lean construction. I will also show you lean planning and digital collaboration using Kwant. So thank you for those who participated in our poll before the presentation. A few housekeeping rules. We're recording this event and we'll be posting the webinar to our website. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit questions that we will address at the end of our presentation through our Q&A. I will send a follow-up email after the webinar that includes a post-webinar survey where you can share your thoughts for future events. Lean planning evolved in the late 1890s when the US had primarily been focusing on the development of machinery and large-scale processes, including the ordering of things from one discrete process to another. Little attention at that time was paid to what was happening between processes, how those processes were being arranged and functioning within a system, and how each worker went about each task. Around 1911, Frederick Taylor took the first look at individual processes and work methods by examining the time spent on each activity, and he created standardized work processes. These processes were dubbed as a scientific work method. Only a few years later, in 1913, Henry Ford critically arranged a continuous system of people, machines, tooling, and products to manufacture the Model T automobile. While his methods were later critiqued as non-repeatable for other economic situations, the Toyota Motor Company built on the Ford production system, and they dubbed their new approach the Toyota production system, and this was around 1945. They recognized a central role of inventory and just-in-time delivery for processing of inventory just in time for the next operation. Their focus on inventory and team development led them to be clear leaders in car manufacturing and development. Lean manufacturing was officially dubbed in the 1990s in John Krafcik's and James Womack's book on the machine that changed the world, where they compared Japanese, American, and European automotive assembly plants. So what is lean? As our CEO Niran says, it is not a software, it is not a technology, it is a philosophy to improve your process, reduce waste, and increase accountability. The first step in lean planning is the value creation, which brings together all stakeholders, including the owner, architect, engineers, general contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers. The project team not only delivers what the client wants in their project plans and specifications, but they provide advice and shape expectations throughout the project. This process is then followed by defining your value stream, including the necessary labor, information, equipment, and materials for each planning activity throughout your project. In the pre-construction phase, and as you begin your work, you identify and eliminate wastes in your planned processes. Wastes are defined as anything not necessary to produce the product or service. Your goal is to create a continuous, uninterrupted workflow that is reliable and predictable. In order to achieve this, you need clear communication between all parties. When one part of the project gets behind or ahead of schedule, it is essential to let everyone know so that adjustments can be made to avoid the waste of waiting, motion, and excess inventory. Starting with each planning milestone, each team works backward to set out the tasks that efficiently lead toward task completion. The belief is that it is possible and necessary to continuously improve processes and eliminate waste in order to achieve continuous improvement on future projects. Kwant AI's motto is to imagine construction to be as predictable as shop floors. Construction can capitalize on lean principles by necessitating early involvement of all stakeholders. By organizing how the building is going to be both manufactured and constructed, it is critical to have a coordinated effort in order to do delivery, pre-construction planning, and integration of schedules prior to the start of construction. That integration, the pole planning, gives you the opportunity to save time and money. The last planner system is a collaborative planning process that involves trade foremen or design team leaders, the last planners, and planning in greater and greater detail as the time for the work to be done gets closer. The last planner system, or LPS, consists of 4 planning stages. The master schedule summarizes all the work that should be done in abstract terms. The phase schedule defines project phases and is used to coordinate actions that extend beyond the look-ahead window. Phase schedules provide more details regarding what should be done and when. The look-ahead planning presents a time frame of roughly 2 to 6 weeks, and this is the stage where tasks are broken down and made ready. And finally, the commitment planning comprises the most detailed planning stage that results in commitments to deliver the work that was placed on the weekly work plan. The primary goal of lean planning is to identify and eliminate 8 types of waste. Defects are anything that is not done correctly the first time, resulting in rework that wastes time and materials. Overproduction happens when a task is completed earlier than scheduled or before the next task in the process can be started. Waiting relates back to inventory when the necessary materials needed for the work to be completed haven't been delivered or the prerequisite prior task has not yet been completed. Not utilizing talent means that the right person is not matched to the right job, and their talent, skills, and knowledge go to waste. Transport waste happens when materials, equipment, or workers are moved to a job site before they are needed. Materials that are not immediately needed are considered excess inventory. They tie up budget, they require storage, and they often degrade when they're not being used. Motion refers to the movement that is not necessary, such as the distance between workers and tools or materials. And finally, over-processing happens when features or activities are added that have no value to the client. Ironically, this often occurs when taking steps to eliminate the other types of waste. And here on the right, you can see our default waste types in our platform, and you can modify these waste types and also add additional waste types based on your current company practices and what you're seeing in the field. One benefit of lean planning is the creation of accountability among the workforce. We measure the level of planning reliability among the workforce using planned percentage complete, commonly known as PPC reports. We track what promise was made on a weekly basis. So here you can see each week and the promises that were made versus what promise has been completed. So you're tracking those promises that have been made and whether or not they have been completed. Our other focus is on anticipating tasks and removing constraints to make activities ready for implementation. The theory of constraints focuses on system improvement, which we define as a series of interdependent processes. The constraint in a group of interdependent links is the weak link. The performance of the entire chain is limited by the strength of the weakest link. So here you can see one of our reports is the constraints log. The performance of the entire chain is limited by the strength of the weakest link. Constraints range in anything from design to technical, economic, management, time, legal, social, and environmental constraints. We track and improve on these PPCs, wastes, and constraints in a series of reports that can be used to continually improve processes. So here you can see the waste report, which is also can be known as the variance report, PPC reporting, trends, and our constraints log. We apply lean planning principles at Kwant AI using the last planner system, in that we start with the master schedule, create a weekly work plan, and a look-ahead schedule. We provide production tracking and PPC and report analytics for continual learning. Now I will turn to the product demonstration for Kwant AI's last planner system. I will show you how to invite subcontractors to collaborate, add and edit activities, create a weekly work plan using calendar and Gantt view, add and edit tasks and constraints, and change status, add waste, and generate a PPC report. When navigating onto your project, which I can show you here, using the Kwant AI platform, you first navigate to the team profile, and you navigate to invite collaborators. You invite your collaborators here. This is where you add your subcontractors. You invite the individual by adding their email address, and you press invite. They will then receive an email invitation to add in their phone number, email, and email address. In the platform, you assign them managerial permission. So here I've added Timmy as a manager. These permissions allow each person to see all activities associated with the LPS system and only edit those activities associated with their particular company. So if you're a manager, you can edit only everything related to your particular company if you're a subcontractor. You can also add each individual as an administrator, which gives them view, edit, delete permission for all companies. You must also make sure to assign a company to each user. So here with Bikesh, you want to make sure to assign a company to Bikesh. And if you want to disable a user, just disable them here. Next, I will navigate to the reporting system on our hardware. Here you can track the weekly promises that have been made for each company. So here I can track Italia. And for a specific date range, here I can select for the last 30 days. So if you want to a default for a specific company, like let's say Kwant, then you can make a default for Kwant. And you can also choose the date range that you want to view the promises that were made. So here you can see that on week 9, it was not a great week. But on week 15, Kwant had a better performance. You can also view the number of wastes or variances that were made for that particular company. So here you can see that the majority of wastes or variances were attributed to client changes as well as skills. You can also see that wastes were attributed to material supplies availability, design RFI, and prior work complete. You can use these insights to make better decisions on the weakest links on a project. And here you can download a CSV file and PNG for each graph. At the LPS view, which you can see here, so you go down and select look ahead, there is a lean view, which is a Kanban view, and you'll be able to see the activities divided by subcontractor or trade. These activities are listed as suggested, planned, in which the activities are now locked and planned, committed for by the subcontractors, completed, or not complete. Next, you will have a Gantt view where you'll be able to see the activities divided by Gantt view. Then you will have a list view where you can see all activities in list form. And finally, you have a calendar view where you see the activities by dates, including the week view and the month view. The calendar view is the easiest to visualize things, and on the left-hand side, you are looking at different locations on a project. Navigating back to the Gantt view, remembering back to the forest and the tree slide that we had, you first start with your master schedule, which you can integrate from Microsoft Project or P6. And then you can break that down into a 2-week, 4-week, or 6-week look ahead and press import. Once you have imported the selected dates of your master schedule, you can see the work breakdown activities here. The goal is to enable the subcontractors or trades to add their own activities. There are 2 ways to add a new activity. The first way is to add an activity associated with a master schedule activity. So here we have under DOH inspections, we have imported for the 2-week look ahead, we have imported to mop and to vacuum, as well as the locations where those activities will occur. And if you want to add a new activity, you press this plus sign under vacuum here. And now I am being invited to add a new task. So I will add dust. And I will choose a location, as well as the duration of this project. The new activities are shown in green. So here, dust is a new activity and it is shown in green. And we can also select to see additional features and selections. So I'm going to select to add company name here. And this way I can select a company that I will assign this task. So now dust is assigned to Kwant. Kwant is committed to a 4-day activity in the Delta trailer, starting on the 13th and ending on the 16th. You double click to open up an activity and you can see all the details of the activity. When you open up the activity, you can create the priority. You navigate to dates and responsibility, and if this task is critical, make sure to select critical. That way it will show up on the dashboard as critical. You can create a reminder for yourself and for those who are associated with this task. And when you change the status of the task to planned, you are now committing yourself to this task and the task is now locked. You can add a waste and you can also add a location. And here we've already selected for the company Kwant. So I'm not going to select a waste right now because the task is planned, but you can select a waste here, and you can also select for and add a new kind of waste. So let's say we want to add transport. Now transport is a specific type of waste. And here you can add your location. You also have resources, and you can estimate the number of man hours for this particular activity and compare that to actual man hours that were performed in the field. You can also add logic. So let's say you want to add a predecessor to this task. You can go ahead and select for logic, and I am going to select for mop as a predecessor to this task. You can also add comments and add risk level here. So let's say that this task is urgent. You can also assign this to people. So I'm going to go ahead and select done, just to save all of my changes. But you can also assign this to people. So let's say I want to assign this to Bishal. They will receive an email whenever something changes with regard to this particular activity, as well as the reminders. And here is our activity dust. So when you press done, it saves all of your changes. Now, if you change the predecessor activity, you'll be asked, do you want to change the predecessor activity? So let's go ahead and change it to, and it warns you that changing it is going to impact the other activity. So you do want to change the activity, so you press confirm. So again, if you want to edit location, you navigate back to dates and responsibilities. And let's say that the location has been changed, then you select billiard room here and press done. And if you need to press select for a waste, you press for the waste here and press done. When you open up the activity, you can also see all changes that were made to that particular activity. So there is a history of all changes that were made to that particular activity here. You can filter your activities by company, dates, location, incomplete, and LPS tasks that were created by you. So if you just want to see the LPS tasks that were created by you as a manager on this platform, you would select for LPS task and then press apply. And that's under this filter tab here. Now let me take you to the calendar view. because that's where things will be collaborated on. And I will go ahead and change to, let's see here, I'm going to refresh. There we go, week 16. On the left-hand side, you have sorting by location. So here you have billiard room and all the activities that are affiliated with billiard room, as well as Delta trailer. Here you can see the dates, and the gray zones are the weekend. So April 18th and April 19th are the weekend. Let's say a subcontractor comes to the project and they want to add an activity. You want to go here to this add and add a task. So let's call this task slab on grade foundation. Let's say that I want to assign this to one of my sub supers. Then I would add here. And I need to make sure that I add which company. So which company is this affiliated with? We'll go ahead and add Kwant. And then I will assign the dates. So I'll take this task. I'm going to commit to this task between the 14th and the 16th. I want to make this task critical. And I will set up reminders to remind the people that are working on this activity that this activity is coming up. So let's go ahead and put a reminder so it'll get sent to Bishal. And you want to make sure to also add the location. So we'll go ahead and add Delta trailer as the location. And you press done. And now we can see slab on grade foundation is affiliated with the Delta trailer, and it is color coded. The color coding on the calendar view is by company. So once you promise to do an activity, you will go ahead and lock it. It's been discussed. This has been discussed on the weekly plan, and it's been discussed that you will complete this activity by the 16th. The status now becomes planned. There, the activity is now planned and it is now locked. If Kwant comes back and they say, hey, I can no longer finish this activity by the 16th, I will now have to finish it on the 17th, well, then you go ahead and change the date to finish on the 17th. Now, because this activity has been promised, you cannot change the date without first identifying the waste. So why did this happen? Why could the activity not happen? So previously I had selected for, I'd shown you various wastes that were already a part of this project. This time I'm going to go ahead and select for there was not enough materials. So there was a weighting that had to occur, and I'm going to head and add that waste that will be added to our reporting, and that waste has now been identified. Again, you can add additional categories of waste as I showed you on the Gantt chart. So if you make changes, you want to see if this activity is affecting any other activities associated with this activity. So before I showed you how to add a predecessor, so I will go ahead and select an activity here, and I can see that this activity, at least on this week, is not affiliated with any other activities for the week. But if there were, it would highlight multiple activities. So let's see if there are any linked activities to any of these. Okay, so there are no linked activities or no predecessors associated with these. but I can go ahead and add a predecessor here. And for some reason, let's see. I guess because this has already been locked. Let's see if we can. Yeah, for some reason this is not showing up, but you should be able to add your predecessors under logic. And if you want to track on a daily basis, so let's say that your sub has committed to complete this activity by the scheduled date, you can track the progress of that activity. So we'll go back to Kwant. And if we want to track any of our activities, let's say we want to track dust, then we can go ahead, let's say, you know, it's a 5-day project. We'll go ahead and add 20% of that project as complete. And now you can see that 20% of that day-to-day activity has been completed. So each sub can track their progress on a day-to-day basis and report to their team leader here. So finally, you can sort your views by whichever categories you like. So I showed you this previously. Definitely make sure to select for company name and start date and end date. And if you want to save this layout, you always want to be able to see company name. Then you need to go here and you select for Save Kwant Layout. And you can also see historical look-ahead schedules located here. If you want to send any reports, all of your reports can be viewed under print here. So you have a Gantt chart, PPC, constraint log, waste report. So let's go ahead and download the waste report. And you can see the waste report chart here, which then you can then send to your supervisor and have a meaningful conversation on your look ahead schedule. So that's it. That wraps up our initial product demonstration. We will be doing other webinars in the future on, we do have a field component to Kwant AI. And today I have simply shown you how you can use our cloud-based SaaS technology and the platform in our system you could get started today. So let's go ahead and look at the questions that were submitted, and thank you for submitting these questions. So an anonymous attendee asked, who should be responsible for managing the software in construction projects? Should it be someone who is part of the operation, like the resident of the project, or someone independent as a lean resident? I think that's a great question, and I would like to, discuss, if you are looking to get started, I would love to discuss that separately based on your company objectives and needs and what's the current makeup of your team. Zach, who is going to join us today, he is an outside individual. He's an outside consultant who has been brought in by his client Excite to initiate the lean planning process. So he provides those services, and he works with multiple subcontractors on the project and works with them on a weekly and daily basis and implements those principles on site. So that's an example of someone who has been hired outside of the company. But if you are looking to get started internally, that is certainly something that can get done. And I would like to have that conversation. And if there's anyone who is participating, I remember that one person said that they are currently doing lean planning. If they have any additional insights to share on that, that would be great as well. So Stephen Beck asks, are there templates available or can they be made to replace the typical sticky notes used by subs? So the templates that I showed you today, so I showed you 4 different template types. There is the Kanban board by company, the Gantt layout, which I showed you pretty comprehensively how to add activities there. And you could also add constraints there and track progress on a day-to-day basis. And we have currently have our list view as well as the calendar view where you can see which activities are linked. You can lock and promise your activities. So the subs would go in and say, hey, this is planned for the week, we're doing this, and identify any wastes if those come up. So those are the templates that we currently have available. If we do work with you as a customer or just as someone who has expertise in the field, always looking for requests, insights on how to make the product better, but certainly we currently have customers, you can go ahead and get started today on that. Is there an opportunity to virtually whiteboard, have everyone work to add tasks? That's a great question, Stephen. So what I showed you today, when we started off the demo, I showed you how to add individuals to our platform by pressing invite collaborator. So each of those collaborators, you know, we just had a meeting last week with our Excite team, and we had about at least 10 to 12 subcontractors show up. And those individuals then requested to be added to the Excite platform. So they had a project, they got added to the platform, and each of those individuals, when they're added either as a manager, so if they're added as a manager, they can add, edit, delete their own tasks. And if you're added as an admin, then you can add, edit, and delete tasks for all companies. So if you just want to keep it to, you know, everyone is working on adding their own tasks. Oh, and so you're asking about asks, like work to add asks. Yeah, so you also have that chat. So if you want to assign people to each individual activity, then all those individuals can participate on that chat with that assigned activity. And again, if you have feedback on our current system, you know, we'd love to work with you to get that implemented, you know, depending on the ROI and depending on how frequently we're getting asked, you know, for those additional features. So we can have that conversation. We're always looking to improve what we currently have. Are there any other questions, or does anyone have any other comments? So if that's it, I want to thank you for participating in the webinar today. I will be sending a post-webinar survey after this ends, and you should receive that with the recording of the webinar tomorrow. And if you're looking to get this implemented on site, the first question asks, how do we implement this? Please do reach out and we can have that conversation offline. Thank you so much. And yeah, I hope to see you at another webinar soon shortly. Thank you.